My name is Chris Lee. I'm the founding principal of Design Associates Architects in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I'm on the board of directors of the Global Housing Foundation. So there was a time during the pandemic we had a little bit of a slowdown, and I just joined the GHF, and I was talking to him about some of the projects, and I had this idea for what we called the flat pack house. The idea of the flat pack house was that it was to address a lot of the problems that I had heard from the board. And they weren't looking at them so much as problems, but I would say the obstacles to actually providing housing. And again, this is an architect solving a problem. And so the obstacles that they presented were, not being able to manage a construction site from far away, having to rely on local contractors, and then of course all the other things that happen there, and the money, and where does it go, and how much is it really going to cost, the accountability. So it occurred to us that maybe we should develop a project that requires no contractor. What if you had a project that you could manufacture in a plant environment somewhere, absolutely control all your costs, absolutely know what it was going to be, and have it set up in such a way that instead of shipping a fully done house all the way around the world, which would be completely impractical, you could break it into little pieces and put it in a box, and then you could ship the box, and then when they get it, they open up the box and they put all the pieces back together again, and voila, they have a house. That was the idea of the flat pack house. The design was sort of inspired by something I saw in New Orleans after Katrina. It was a similar kind of a concept thing as, hey, we need some quick housing. How do we do a quick house? We took it a step further though, and the idea was that literally you would break it into pieces that would be small enough to where folks could handle them without a crane or without any heavy equipment. You could just pick it up and carry it over and put it in place. And then fasten it together. Sort of like the way IKEA furniture, the name came from IKEA furniture, which is called a flat pack design, which is you take all the air out of the thing and you just ship the thing, and then you put the air back in when you get it to the other side. So the shape and style and character of it is sort of driven a little bit also to catch interest. It should be an interesting thing because honestly, if you create something architecturally interesting, people will pay more attention to it, they'll notice it more, which draws attention to your project, which is what we were trying to do too, right? Because that also has quite a benefit to the whole program. The more people you can get excited about what you're doing, the more donations you can get, which means the more buildings you can build, which serves the end of what we're trying to do, get some buildings built here. And I think it was a super cool concept. We're actually considering building one. So we're right now sort of sorting through what all those pieces and parts might look like and how they fit into a shipping container. The other cool thing is you ship it in a shipping container, which by the way, they go all over the world. I mean, that's the one thing you can get anywhere you are on planet Earth is a shipping container. And so we would ship it to the site, they'd open it up, put it all together, and then they'd have the container too. You get to use the box that it came in as an extra room or extra space. So it's kind of a cool concept. And we sort of premiered it at the World Urban Forum in Abu Dhabi. And people thought it was super cool. So yeah, now we're inspired to actually put one together and see how it goes. But that is just one of dozens of ways of approaching this kind of problem. But it's the kind of innovative stuff that's out there. You just have to go looking for it. Architecture is building technology, right? And if you are always looking for different ways of building buildings and creating economies, you can actually create great benefits for society. And so it's one of those really feel-good, right kind of moves that actually inspires innovation in architecture. Yeah, the workforce housing problem is a problem worldwide, and the real issue there is that there's tons and tons of people that just can't afford housing. I mean, housing's gotten so expensive and all the systems that it takes to get it done, and a growing number of people worldwide just don't have, even though they're working and they're working hard and they're making money, they're not making enough money to make ends meet. And so it's a real global crisis that it's always been a bit of an issue, but it seems like it's just getting bigger all the time. So this housing problem, it is a big problem, but there's also a big solution waiting to connect with it. Architecture, in its essence, is problem solving. That's what you're doing. Whether you're solving the problem of building a great big house for a CEO somewhere, or trying to find a way to create space out of no money at all. These are all problems, and it's all part of the puzzle, and that's why architects are sort of wired to think these things through. The other thing about the industry is that there are lots of innovative solutions happening out there in the marketplace, and architects go and find those solutions and pull them together in interesting ways. It's like assembling all the parts to create something. But without, honestly, a problem to solve, there is no architecture, right? So you have to bring architects a problem. And in this particular case, the problem is not a whole lot of money and a whole lot of need for housing. And honestly, it's almost one of those things that all architecture students think about and talk about and work on at some point in their schooling or in their career. It's sort of almost core to architecture in a way, is solving that big problem. Yeah, so it's really important that we have good workforce housing for the people that are actually doing all the work, right? I mean, literally, that's what this is. These are the people that are actually carrying the city. They're carrying the community. They're doing all the heavy lifting of keeping the lights on. Unfortunately, in modern times, for quite a while now, that community's been under fire. I mean, they're making less money, they're having less services, and they're having to get by with less. And housing is a big one. Housing has gotten so expensive that they can't afford to live near where they're working, right? So then they get pushed further and further away from the downtown core area, which means that creates environmental problems. It also creates more cost involved in transportation and so forth and so on. So it is in everybody's benefit that we sort of get serious about this problem. And it's not a very hard problem to solve, quite honestly. It's not like it's impossible. It's just a question of will. And if we can create solutions that are attractive, we have found that governments also see this as a problem. I mean, it's a problem everywhere. Everybody has this problem, whether we're in Jackson Hole, which has it on a certain level, or you're halfway across the world and you have it in a totally different environment. It's always a problem. But it's a problem for society because they need these workers. These workers have to be able to get to work and do things, and they're the productivity of your entire civilization. So finding a solution that gives them housing near the place where they're doing the work is in everybody's interest and makes the whole community much healthier. So I think whether the workforce housing is infill in the current city or town, or whether it's out sort of a suburb kind of thing, is completely regional. I mean, it really depends on that place and what's going on there. A lot of places I think you can benefit a lot by pulling it into the urban core, because that's where everybody's working and that's where the most transportation stuff is. However, what has also happened is a lot of the urban core things, it's gotten so expensive downtown because now that's central business district and there's a lot of business there, so that pushes people further and further out. Now in the States, the solution to that was the suburbs, and everybody bought a car and moved out to the country so they didn't have to deal with the hustle and bustle of the city, and they all drove in. That's a luxury. A lot of people don't have a car, it turns out. You'd be surprised. So they can't get pushed too far out before it becomes unworkable. And so for that, it seems like what a lot of the work that GHF has done so far has been sort of around the edge of the city, so that the city downtown can develop high end as it needs to. It can grow in the business way, but then the workers are close by and they can make it around. They can still participate without having a lot of hardship. So we actually, and even in Jackson Hole, now this is kind of a far cry from the sort of communities we're really talking about that need workforce housing, but or at least I thought that until a conversation made me realize it's a worldwide problem. I mean, we always have this concept that it's on in the developing countries, and it turns out it's right here in Jackson Hole too. So we have a real problem here that real estate is so expensive that workers can't afford to live here, and so they end up coming in from a long ways away. And with bad weather and all that stuff, it doesn't work very well. And it's also destroying our community, right? Because if we don't have the folks that work here living here, it changes the nature of our town, and nobody likes that. Everybody's trying to bring that back. So the question of, we realize there's a parallel between what the Global Housing Foundation does and what we have going on right here in Jackson Hole. And that is one of the things the Global Housing Foundation has done over the years is they get the government to give them the land, and then they develop the project. So it's a public-private relationship, whereas the Global Housing Foundation, working with donations and contractors, are the developer, and the municipality gave the land. And that makes it work, and they provide workforce housing. Well, it struck me one day when we were talking about that's exactly the nature of a project that we have right here in Jackson Hole right now. But Teton County gave us the property to develop our project, and so they threw the property in, which was significant. It's a $2 million piece of property, and so we developed a project that fit what the community needed, and with the benefit of having this land to use, are able to make it work out. So it's a perfect public-private relationship, and so the developer can afford to build the project and sell the project inexpensively because the land was cheap. So that is a formula that I did not even realize until we had that conversation is happening right here in Jackson Hole. And by all accounts, it looks like it's going to be a great success. And in fact, we're looking for more opportunities to do the same kind of thing, and the town and county are working with us to do the same. So that is one great way to solve that problem. Sustainability is always a big issue in architecture, for sure. It's something on every architect's mind. The short story of it is that sustainability is sort of essential. I mean, if we're serious about this planet and we don't want to be totally wasteful, throwing stuff away doesn't make a lot of sense. It turns out there's lots and lots of products, lots and lots of technology we can use that makes buildings better. So I would say even architects that aren't particularly in that space of super sustainability think in those terms. You know, they want to make sure their buildings are well built and thoughtfully designed for the environment. That seems to go without saying. In general, though, sustainability is such a deep topic because it's not even just the products you use or how they were manufactured or how they arrived at the site, but it's also how long will they last, how much upkeep are they going to need, how much energy do they consume, all those sorts of things. And so there's a big wide range. Fortunately for us today, there's lots and lots of products that are on the market now that are not so outrageously expensive because of the way they're manufactured to be sustainable that they become cost competitive with other things. So I think in general, if given a choice between sustainable and non-sustainable, everybody would go sustainable. It's just generally speaking a better solution, and I think everybody sees it that way. So there are a number of benefits to providing good quality housing for people, for the workforce. In addition to just keeping them close to the city so that they can get to work and all that kind of stuff, safety, security. You got to have a secure place. Certainly right now we're dealing with this whole COVID thing, and you got to have a place to ride it out. You got to have a place to get away. You got to have a place to isolate if you need to. So the health and wellness of people is a big deal. And if you can ask anybody about homelessness. If you have homelessness, you got a lot of disease, you got sickness, you got a lot of problems there. That's not good for anybody. That's not good for the society. Safety and security for your stuff. I mean, you can't really accumulate anything. You can't really have anything of value if you don't have a good place to keep it, to protect it. So that's important. So by providing housing, you're actually providing so much more than just a house for a person to live in. You're providing a life. You're providing everything. Now they can have a family. They can kind of branch out. Whereas without that, or if that's uncertain in your life, it keeps you in a certain space where you can't really realize your true productivity, and that lack of productivity it hurts all of us. If you can just do the simplest thing of providing enough housing for people, you'll see a robust consequence to your society for just having done that one simple little thing. I mean, everything will drop off, crime, and your health will get better, and intelligence will rise, and you'll have more families, and you'll have all kinds of wonderful benefits just from that one simple little gesture. And it's also just humanity. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that in these times that we even have an issue like this. This should be something that we've solved. And it's not hard to solve, quite honestly. It just takes money, and it takes political will. And we got both. We should have both.